But I don't know if you remember long back now in 2008 and 2009 when I was on daytime here at Six Music, we used to have Back to School Monday. So, you thought your Saturdays were free and easy. No. We're going to go back to school every Saturday while I'm sitting in for Edith and have a little Saturday school. And for this, I thought we should study the Child Ballads, because you hear about the Child Ballads and you think, oh, they're songs about children. Oh, no, they're not, you see. It was a scholar called Francis James Child who collected and published 305 fantastic songs that have become so influential. You'll know some. Lord Randall was one of them. That was one of the collection. If you listen to A Hard Rain's Gonna Fall by Bob Dylan, you'll hear the influence. Where Have You Been by Blue Eyed Son. Where Have You Been, My Darling Young One? Because if you know the Lord Randall song, that's where he got that idea from. Another example will be The Lass of Rockroyal. Oh, it's a tremendous story about Lord Gregory who fathered the child, but the mother and the baby were poor and he never married them, and they died on the shore because the mother of the Lord wouldn't let them in the castle, so they starved to death. The Lass of Rockroyal, that turned into Woody Guthrie's Who's Gonna Shoe Your Pretty Little Feet. Anyway, so that's what we're studying today, the Child Ballads. And who, to join us in our study, would be the masters of the Child Ballads. Anaïs Mitchell and Jefferson Hamer are here. They've got an album out called The Child Ballads, which is getting immense reviews across the board. 5 stars everywhere. Telegraph, Guardian, Independent, and so forth. So they're here. So I must say, welcome. And thank you for coming in.
Thanks so much for
having us,
here.
Cerys.
You've got a gig tonight, so I really appreciate you coming in. It's not in London either, and we're broadcasting from London. It's way up there in Bangor, Colwyn Bay, in the theatre tonight. So I know you've got a big trip, so I really appreciate you popping in. So let's discuss Francis James Child, born 1825, Jefferson.
That's right. He was the son of a sailmaker, a New England family, and he was the valedictorian at Harvard University. He was a star pupil. After he graduated from his university, he traveled abroad, and he traveled throughout Europe, and he actually met one of the Grimm brothers in Germany and was influenced by their study of folklore and their philology. And when he went back to Harvard, they took him on as a professor, and they actually created the title Professor of English for him so that he could continue his work on the child ballads, on the English and Scottish popular ballads, and stay on staff, on faculty at Harvard.
He must have been an amazing person to talk to, his absolute interest, because even though the title says the English and Scottish ballads, it was actually an international collection of songs.
That's right. He did a lot of work via correspondence with in Scandinavia and in France and in Spain, and found connections to these same ballads all throughout Europe.
Because that's the thing with songs, these old songs. You can, like I mentioned, Bob Dylan and Woody Guthrie. You can see the little map lines, can't you, of where they're from and the way they travel around the world. And the collection of songs, for instance, the Maid Freed from the Gallows is one of them. Another one here is The Cruel Mother, because she was an unmarried is a major taboo in the olden days, an unmarried mother. So she kills the child, and then the child comes back as a ghost. Because what was interesting to Child as well was the way they could pass information. It was the oral tradition, wasn't it, and share sort of moral ideas and so forth.
That's right. It was entertainment. It was a way of maybe teaching lessons, or it was a window into the culture and the fears of the culture. And it also, just like our culture today, they made good stories. I mean, sex and violence aren't they're not an invention of this era.
Mm-mm. And they weren't scared of using them as subject matter. So Anaïs, your selection of the songs, you've done covers of 7 songs here on the album Child Ballads. Tell us how you picked the songs that you did.
Well, I think when we first started the project, we just we fell in love with some versions of these songs by other artists, and there was a couple artists and albums that were sort of huge in our world. Martin Carthy, his Crown of Horn record was the reason we wanted to tackle that Willie's Lady song, and then certainly Nick Jones. We fell in love with the Clyde Waters that he recorded on his Unearthed live record. And there was some Fairport stuff we fell in love with too. And so we really, that's how it kind of captured our imagination. And then once we got into the project, we started to maybe get a little bolder about finding stories in the text that maybe we hadn't heard a version of that we loved, but we loved the story. And we thought maybe we could bring something to this story. And all the stories are like you're saying, they're very powerful and deep. They're epic. Some of them are 6 or 7 minutes long, and a lot of lovers that are torn apart and that have to go through great trials and lengths to get to one another. So it felt really like stories worth telling.
And when you came to record them, because it's an amazing record, your voices are so, sit so well together. You're both singing pretty much in harmony throughout the storytelling. Was that difficult to do, fitting all your phrasing together with all these? I mean, they're huge stories.
That was something we did kind of from the beginning, and I don't think we gave it a lot of thought. I mean, we worked out our parts carefully, but over the course of learning the words and working on the words and piecing our versions together, we just the duo harmony parts just kind of came together naturally.
And you're doing it live tonight. Do you remember all the songs pretty well? Is it precious on? Is it your first show tonight?
It's nice that we're both singing, because if I forget a line, I can just look at him in a panic and maybe I'll pick it up from his. They're
so plot driven that as long as you stay on top of it, one thing gives way to the next and the events sort of unfold. If you lose it a little bit, you forget where you are in the story, it can be tough to pick it back up.
Yeah, and then there was one song that never actually got published that I want to mention it, and I hadn't heard of this, and about the crabfish. I won't go into too much detail because it wasn't used in the books, because it was a little X-rated, even for a collection of songs that do not shy away from dramatic sort of tragic stories. But there's a crabfish, apparently, if you have to go to the loo in the middle of the night and you were using the chamber pot, and then this crayfish was in the chamber pot and would pinch you in places where you wouldn't want them to pinch. That was one of the stories in the Child Ballad that didn't make it. But I wanted to talk about the song we're going to play now. Anaïs, do you want to talk us through the story of Willie's Lady?
Yeah, sure. So Willie marries a woman that his mom does not approve of. He gets her from overseas, and his mom happens to be a witch. And she, because she disapproves of Willie's choice of bride, she casts a curse on the new bride that she'll be pregnant forever, and she never can deliver the baby.
That is a curse.
I was thinking about this the other day, that maybe she just keeps getting more and more pregnant. Maybe she's like 2 years pregnant and she gets bigger and bigger.
And the toddler's inside her.
Yeah. So anyway, Willie, on the advice of his wife, goes to his mother a couple times and tries to bribe her with different gifts to lift the curse. And his mother will have none of it and says, no, your wife will die and you'll marry some other woman. And finally, his wife comes up with a cunning plan to outfox the mother-in-law. And I won't give away the details of that.
Well, you're playing tonight in Colwyn Bay in the theatre. What time's kick-off?
8. Well, we have Rory Butler is going to go on first at maybe 7:30.
I think that's right.
Well, have a good trip, safe trip up there. Lots of hot chocolate and that. And thanks very much for coming in this morning. Really good to see you again, Anaïs, and nice to meet you, Jefferson.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.